Okay, call this police and fire meeting to order at 7 o'clock on the 23rd. Guess we're here to discuss the boarding up of properties for condemned houses and properties cleanups and whatnot. And then we're going to talk about some fire equipment appropriations. Barbara, you want to start us off since out here and not here?
Yes. So I passed out some papers. Do you guys want me to go through the process that we use for the city to condemn? That's the sheet, and that's a section in our code.
You get highlights.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So most of those structures that I am condemning this year and the ones that are in the pipeline for this year are going to be condemned under unfit for human occupancy. So I highlighted A. There's 4 sections that we can condemn properties, and A is the one that I'm using most for this year, simply because we have properties that have not had sewer and water for over a decade. So
22 is no longer there. 22 Diamond. Neither is.
Well, this list, I haven't got to that yet, but I'll explain this list here in a little bit. Since Dan wants me to go ahead and review the process, I'll go ahead and go through that. So once we get the supporting documents that I type up, and I give you guys a copy of those. Dan wants me to go ahead. These are the documents that I present to the property owner in person or by certified mail. Once I've done that, I give them a certain amount of time. The ones that I recently done, I gave 30 days to correct the issues, meaning get sewer, get water, get the structures back up to the ability to live in.
And the 30 days is something you gave them. It's not something that's like written as far as in the Ohio Revised Code or anything.
We can give them up to 60 days.
Okay.
I went halfway and gave them 30. We'll review that process in 30 days. If nothing's been done at that point, we will board them up. If something's been done, we can give them an extra 30 days depending upon the city manager. It's his call, basically. Once that's done, and we need to board them up, it goes to council, and then you guys make that decision. And then it gets recorded in the county recorder's office on the deed that those properties have been condemned. This sheet is Steve Pearson's work. The ones that are highlighted have been recorded with the recorder's office, and the ones that are not highlighted are the ones that haven't been recorded. Now, since he has condemned a lot of these properties, some of these properties, the land bank's taken over and they've cleared up, or they're getting ready to. So a lot of these properties are in the land bank right now. But I just wanted to show you, when I came in as the code officer, this is the sheet I was given. Now, I spent about 4 hours looking through Steve Pearson's computer, and I found some more that's not on the sheet, and I'll update that as soon as maybe the next police and fire, if we're going to come and talk about this once again. So I'll update that. After the 30 days and the person's received notice and it's went to council and it's been approved, at that point they can dispute the decision through court. And that's something they all have a right to do. They can dispute what we've asked and go to court on those cases. Placarding, we do placard the buildings. So you'll see these placards that are on buildings currently. These are the placards that we use. They're usually yellow. And I give a copy to the police chief and the fire chief so they know you need to keep an eye on these buildings because they're placard, they're condemned, and no one's supposed to be in them because we've ordered them to stay out. And if they're caught, then they're trespassing. So that's what that sheet's for. And then you'll turn to the next page and it'll describe how we placard the buildings.
So what exactly do you need council to do?
Well, I'm reoccupancy of the building. So no structure after it's been condemned, after that 30 days can be reoccupied unless the problem's been fixed. At that point, if it's not, then I come to you and I ask for council's action to demo the building, to board it up, demo, and clean up. And that's the next section. If you want to read the next section, it says council's actions. City council may, through motion and vote, determine that the building is a public nuisance and to have the building raised and removed, or it can be made safe by repairs or repair and make safe and sanitary. So basically what I need you to do is when I take these cases to you, I need you to vote that you agree. Everything's documented. I have reports from Rumpke. I have reports from the water office. And I also have documentation in forms of photos. They're all dated, time-stamped, and who they're taken by. Because that's a requirement if we have to go to court. So once that's done and the demo order goes in effect, we put that in the paper. We advertise that we're going to be demoing. So that way, the individual that owns the property, if I can't find the person, then it's been in the paper for 3 weeks. The structures that I currently have in the first phase, all those were hand delivered last Friday by myself in the prosecutor's office. We have one that I left on the door and I sent one by certified mail. So I'll get the certified certificate, the receipt back showing that they've accepted that. And I also have a photo that I posted it on the door of the residence.
So after 30 days, you go and then you board up, and then after you board up, you bring the council then, or?
So after 30 days, I won't board up unless they didn't do something to correct
Right.
What we're asking them to correct. They're all aware of what we're asking for the corrections to be. They're all aware that they're going to have to get sewer and water. Some of them have holes in the floor that folks lived in and lots of debris. I have photos here if you guys want to see that they can probably never live in. If that's the case, at that point, what we do is we bring in a professional to evaluate the property and see what the worth is of the property. We would have a home inspector come in. And mind you, all this cost will go on the property tax. We'll assess that to the taxes. Anything that we spend will be assessed to the taxes, right down to the postage I use for certified mail. But yeah, we'll have to have a home inspector to come in and tell us that it's not, here's the worth, and this is how much it's going to take to fix that house. And at that point, there's not really a whole lot the individual can do as far as fixing it.
Beyond. And,
some of them are. I agree. I'm not a professional.
Human feces.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a home inspector, so I'm not sure. I can't. I'm not qualified to make that decision. We would bring someone in that's qualified to make those decisions. And I would get the report and then share that with the property owner. So that's the process. And then of course I give you samples of what my letters look like so that you know what I'm sending individuals, the placard, and then we'll talk about this page. The ones that are highlighted are the ones that have been recorded. The ones that are in white, Steve did not get those recorded. He didn't go all the way. A couple on this list I boarded up that are still standing, I've boarded. And then on the back page are the properties that I did when I first came in last year. And they're on the very back page, and it'll say Becky Barber's work for 2019. These I followed through, and these 2 properties that I condemned last year are now belonging to the land bank. So the land bank will have that responsibility of doing what they need to do, or if an individual wants to buy those 2 properties off the land bank, then they're more than welcome to do that and demo them themselves. The next set of houses, the 2020 condemned houses in Nelsonville. So the initial step was completed for those residents, and they were served on June the 17th. And that's 823 Walnut, 217 St. Charles, 855 High, 770 Poplar, 525 Patton, 253 Meyer Street, and 177 Meyer Street. So there's 7 houses that have the initial step completed, meaning I would take these properties to council and ask council for their blessing to go to the next step after 30 days if the problems haven't been rectified by the property owners. There was one property, let's see here, 253 Meyer Street. That was the building that collapsed. That has not been recorded with the recorder's office yet, but there was an insert in the Athens Messenger stating, because I couldn't find the property owner, and then I found him after it was publicized. That particular residence, the property owner has decided that he would take care of it himself. He rented equipment. He's in the process of working on that building that partially collapsed. We're giving him time. He's been building a relationship with Mr. Conley and has asked him to do several things in the process. So the only thing really I'm going to attach to his taxes is the cost of the advertisement, which was $77, and any kind of fees for mailing.
Is our emergency pump up and running?
It is.
Is the fence fixed?
All but a little corner. So we're going to go down there and wrap up that last little corner. They got most of it done. It was just that last tie.
We'll make sure that cost gets wrapped up too. Have you had a chat with AAP on?
They don't have an answer why it happened.
Huh?
They can't explain how they let that happen. So
That's pretty big to do, especially emergency flood pump.
absolutely.
So we had a meeting May 20th at 12 p.m. The staff that were in attendance was Scott Frank, Gary Hunter, myself, Chris Johnson, Jason Cohen, Dan Sherman, Rick Hedges, and we discussed the property at 177 Myers. The property is not in probate. No case has been opened yet. Owners have expired, and Maria Hoyd is currently living in the building with a few other folks. They have sewage that's leaking in the crawl space. They had no trash service, but I did call today, and they do currently have trash service, and they have current water in the expired individual's name. So the water service is not in their name, it's in the folks that own the property's name. The health department has reviewed this property with me, and they are in agreement that it's a public health hazard. And so, and we did, the health department and I went out and we checked all these houses together. 855 High Street, it's owner occupied. Last date the taxes were paid were in 2018. They currently owe $3,341.75 in taxes. No water or sewage service since 2005. No trash service. The Athens County Health Department has viewed and will be sending the condemnation as well. 525 Patton, its current owner occupied. Owner gained the property when the bank gave it to him after the city refused ownership of the property. Last date taxes were paid was 2014. He currently owes $3,850.87. There's no water or sewer service since February of 2015. And I have the Athens County Health Department in agreement with me as well on the condemnation. We have 770 Poplar Street. The property is currently in probate with attorney Ken Ryan. Owner has expired daughter that's living in the building. I'm sorry, the owner has expired, the daughter's living in the building. Land Bank is currently looking into ownership of both of these properties on Poplar Street, the 770 and the 784. It looks like it may be a civil case. The city would be represented by Gary Hunter to evict the tenants if they're not out in 30 days or rectified the issue. Sorry, that was 770. I'm getting ahead of myself. Now we're going to go down to 770 and what we discussed during that meeting. 770 or 177 Meyer Street. I issued all the documentation of condemnation to the tenant that's living there, Maria Hoyd. We're giving her 30 days.
She attended up if the owners have passed.
Yeah, she's living there. There's been no probate open.
Well, I'm saying is who owns the property?
The property owners have expired. Yeah.
But see, if you got to do an eviction process anyway.
Yeah, that's why I read ahead of myself. So we would have to do a civil case, and Gary Hunter would represent the city of Nelsonville, and we would have to do an eviction if they're not taken care of in 30 days. The issue. 855 High Street, continue. We're continuing. Wait a minute here. We did condemn. We issued all documents of condemnation to the owner. 525 Patton, we issued all condemnation documents to the owner. 770 Poplar, we issued all the documents of condemnation to the tenant because she is also an individual living in the house. And the probate's in court with the attorney.
She's the daughter.
So it would be a civil case.
Yes, the deceased owner.
It would be a civil case after 30 days being represented by Gary Hunter for the city of Nelsonville. During this whole discussion, we talked about after 30 days, if there's non-compliance, receiving escort by law enforcement to then start boarding and evicting, except for the two where the individuals are living in there pretty much unlawfully. And then at that point, we would have to evict them, so we would have to take them to court. I sent an email out Thursday, May 21st, to Mike Cooper and Patrick McGarry at the Athens County Health Department, per request of Chief Johnson. Chief Johnson asked that we schedule a date we can condemn these properties together with the health department. I did not receive any information back from the health department yet. So I asked the prosecutor's office if he would help and his guys would help last Friday. And we served the papers last Friday without the health department with us. And that's it on the 7 that is in the initial step that's completed. Now in the pipeline for 2020, I have 339 Elizabeth Street. That was a property that was actually, it actually had a house fire on March the 24th. Currently, there's people living in that house. The owner's allowing individuals to live in 339 Elizabeth Street. And it's not been renovated after the house fire. And I have the documentation on the house fire and what all put on there. 124 Toth Drive. There's 2 trailers there. If you guys remember, there was a trailer fire. It actually connected to the other trailer and was on fire as well. Both individuals have passed away that were living in the trailer. The father has deceased that own, I'm sorry, the individual, the property owner has deceased that own 125 Toth. So the daughter is currently in probate trying to gain access to that property. The probate court or the probate attorney, the attorney for the probate is our local attorney here in Nelsonville. I have spoke to his office and I have spoke to the property owner. I have not talked to them about condemning the property. We had the prosecutor's office here last week doing a lot of work, and we were going to offer their services to them to try to do some cleanup at 124 Toth Drive. It's in an area next to the bike path, so if we have any individuals that's coming into our town, it looks really bad and it doesn't represent the city very well. If you were to see these two trailers as you're going in to Rocky Boot, if you want to eat lunch or whatever off the bike path. So that's a really important one. 219 Frank Street is a trailer that has been left.
Where's Frank Street?
Frank Street is off of Madison. And it goes,
Oh, it's all the way in
Just past Mike Wilson's
Gotcha.
on the right.
Gotcha. Now I know where it's at. Thank
we're,
you.
we're looking at 319 Oak Street, which was owned by DBJ Holdings. He owned several properties and left the state and left a lot of properties behind for us to take care of in the land bank. 242 St. John Street. That house is very, very dilapidated. Very, very dilapidated.
Sidewalk hall.
Hmm.
That's the one that's sidewalk hall.
Yeah, it's caving in.
And
And
have skylights.
237 West Washington Street. Get a lot of reports of raccoon and different type of creatures coming out of that house. It's infested with rats, and the neighbors complain a lot about that. That's the house. That's the house that Rick Warren owns. It's beside Rick Warren's that Joey McKelvey lived in. So that's the location.
The blue house.
It's next to the blue house. We got 902 Chestnut Street. The individuals that own that property has since expired, and the land bank's looking into that house. Very nice house. We boarded up the two doors that were busted in to save the property from being compromised by weather. So I did not have an order to do that, but we did that because I couldn't reach the any of the individuals, like the kids. I tried to Facebook them. I tried calling them. I emailed them. I wrote them a letter. No one contacted me back. So we went ahead and boarded up that back door so weather wouldn't go in the house, and maybe it can be salvaged once the land bank takes ownership. 269 Madison Street, 1120 Poplar Street, and 584 High Street are in the pipeline. And this list grows the more I'm in the community and I find more houses that look vacant. I do my research and put those on the list to research and see what I can get done with those.
Well, hopefully we don't have to condemn, not condemn, but we don't have to demolish all of them, because eventually we're gonna end up with empty lots all over town.
The issue is they're not being rescued quick enough
Oh, yeah.
because of the laws. Before the land bank can take them over, they have certain steps that they have to take. And then you got 10 years of windows being busted out because they've been vandalized, doors being busted in because individuals are living in the buildings. So the quicker we can get boards up, the better off those buildings,
Yeah, that'll help.
it will help them. It's not pretty, but it at least somewhat saves the building. And I think that most of these houses have been in foreclosure, with the housing market, how it was a few years back. And then a lot of people lost their places. Folks have passed away. No one's really opened up the estate. So those buildings sit, and it becomes an issue for me as the code officer. So those are things that I want to look into once we start looking at the zoning laws and some of the laws that we have currently to bring forth to council, asking that we can rescue those houses a little bit quicker if we can, before they become houses like 525 Patton Street.
Yeah. True that. So you need an ordinance from us for?
I will need an ordinance for the initial step residents, the 7. I'm gonna need your blessings to start the next process of condemning these if the property owners don't follow through on the orders.
And you'll have these addresses listed out on the ordinance?
Gary Hunter and I will write that up, yes.
Everybody agrees with that?
Yep.
Right, just turn the ordinance.
No, you're not disturbing me.
We're trying to.
I was sending a message to Rick Wasserman.
I'm sending you
Stop.
a message right now. Oh, buddy. Yeah, I think it's idea then. Yeah. Thank you, Becky.
You're welcome.
Right up and we'll
Yep.
present it at council next council meeting. You know, urgency on that, can it go through 2 meetings? Do we need?
Well, we did the initial process on the 17th. I gave them 30 days to comply. So June 17th will be 30 days.
Yeah, next
July.
meeting's on the 13th, right?
Yeah, July 13th.
So,
By that time, yes, so we're 4 days away from your 30 days.
I have not heard from any of these folks that I've given their documentation to. They have not called me.
So attach the suspension meetings and see if we can't pass it.
I would really like to brainstorm with professionals, individuals that would have any kind of idea how we can rescue these houses before
They get to that point.
they get to the point that we're losing a lot of buildings in the city.
They want to do, you know, the 141 Monroe Street. They wanted to tear it down. I'm like, no, it can be saved. I mean, you know, you've got to put, unfortunately, a lot of homes, even if they look good on the outside, you're still looking at, you know, $20,000, $30,000 in materials to get them back up to, because the first thing that everyone seems to do is they rip the wiring out. Well, as soon as you rip the wiring out, you don't know what they've cut, so you have to put all new wiring in the house. That's the other one. And then the plumbing's gone and everything.
I think we should research. I know that, I know there's laws about boarding windows when they're in finance through the bank. You know, it has to be plexiglass. So we need to look at a lot of stuff and see what, because we have a huge issue in town. What's happening is these houses are getting so bad and they're getting invaded by individuals. The doors are getting kicked in. Once that happens, they go in and destroy the whole inside. There's a house up on Columbus Street, beautiful block home, or not block home, but brick home, that the individual, it's right up from the hardware store. She left the house and the door was kicked in. And when I stopped there to assess the grass, because now the city's mowing the grass because there's no one there, someone has been in there. They've stolen the TV. They took the other TV that was in the living room. They had drug it through the front door and set it out on the porch. So, I mean, this is a beautiful home and it's an expensive home. And we have people that are invading the home. They're, you know, whatever they're doing in the homes. I go by, I close the door. The next day it's popped open again. And, you know.
And where did so the owners of the property just left or?
The word is, with the neighbors, is the female left with her companion and just left everything.
So, see, so stuff like that, we should be able to go in somehow.
Well-
Try and save.
The homeowner's been contacted by us. I didn't contact her personally, but she's been contacted and made
That's the
aware
one that lived there and left, or is that? Was she
that
renting it?
lived there, and after she left, has been contacted. She's been made aware of the fact that, and so far, there's been nothing done as a result.
So that process, somewhere along the line, when they don't return anything within 30 days or something, then we should probably step in because, again, the longer that's open, the worse it's gonna get.
Sure, I wasn't aware of that information because there's a miscommunication between offices here. So I was not aware that Chris got a hold of her. That would have been nice to know. So therefore, you know, I could have had a contact number and ask her what her plans are because it's getting destroyed.
Hard to believe people just, I guess it's just hard to believe there's that many properties just sitting.
There's 45 properties that I've found so far.
Wow.
So I got a couple of questions from Facebook land.
Okay.
The first one, Becky, it says, what about the trailer at 24 Dalton Drive? It has been vacant since August of 2018. It has animals living in it and under it. They're getting under other trailers and tearing up the pinning and insulation.
So that property owner has been cited into mayor's court. She has not showed. I was able to track her down. She left her trailer, moved to Lancaster. Some really good neighbors. They're really, you know, my best informants are the individuals that live around those houses. They tend to know a lot. So when I went out and initially got a complaint about 6 months ago, I went out and done an investigation, found out this individual that owns the trailer, because it's at Joe, Linda, and Jim's trailer park, just left the trailer, went to live in Lancaster. Won't answer any of my calls or any of my warning letters, so I cited her. She did not accept my citation by certified mail, so I sent her one by mail. It did not come back. So she went in the mayor's court, or the documentation went in the mayor's court. She was a 3 no-shows, so it was transferred to Athens County Municipal Court, and that's where it's at now. Jim and Jolinda, and I hate to speak for them, but this is what I've heard, they're taking them to court to get the trailer out. The individual's actually, and this is hearsay, she's wanting to sign the trailer over, but I think there's a large amount of taxes that's owed on the trailer. So there's some issues there that Jim and Jolinda's trying to work out. From what Jim has told me, he has sprayed for cockroaches. He's hired someone to go in and spray. However, he can't enter the residence. That's unlawful. I can't enter the residence. That's unlawful. I don't have a live trap, or I would set some live traps and then relocate the varmints that are in the building. But I don't have live traps.
Can we get her live traps?
I would be willing to do that and relocate the animals. That's about as good as I can do on that property right now.
We might be opening a can there.
We're in a waiting game right now on the process to go through court, both with Jim and Jolinda and myself.
What's another question we got out there, Scott?
So the other one is, are the police made aware of these vacant homes so they can check on them?
Typically, yes.
So the list that I gave council, I give that to Harry and to Chris. It's this list. And the last update, it was last revised January 3rd of 2019. So I make sure that police and fire both have that list.
Okay, that's all we got from Facebook land at this time.
Okay. Type her up. Send it to council.
Thank you.
Mr. Barber,
Yes.
it's your show.
Since you were there.
Yeah, I was conducting it, finishing up another meeting, so a little bit late. All right, the last ordinance, which was 4320, that was going to cover capital improvement expenditures for some gear and rescue equipment for the fire department. That number was $9,036. $36.75. I was waiting on a quote to come in. We needed to get some rescue vests, 4 of them, and I was waiting for a quote to come in. Before that meeting, it did not come in, and the reason I was waiting for the quote is because I knew it would be cheaper than the competitors I was looking at elsewhere. It finally came in. I talked to Scott. We were just kind of try to just throw it in later, but with everything going on, we didn't get all that stuff together in time. So I sent out an email to each police and fire committee member and Scott a little bit ago. The 4 rescue vests come up to $680. There was an error on the $9,036.75 of $292. That was individual shipping for the helmets and some of the gear that we did not anticipate individualized shipping coming through from the manufacturer. So that brings the total $909 more than the $9,036.75, which brings it to $9,945.75. That still covers the helmets, the replacement boots, the hose tester, all that stuff's the same. The only thing added is the shipping and the 4 vests.
Well, so that was already approved, the $9,036. So you just need a different appropriation for
Yes,
the $909.
correct.
So don't confuse it with what
No, I wanted to
asked. And
right. That's why I gave you those
it
numbers.
almost looks like you're asking for another $9,000.
No, that's why those numbers are there, so you can see the difference is $909.
So that's all you need the appropriation for.
For the 4 vests and shipping.
Yes. And you guys have that in your emails as well. That way it's broken down.
Carl, you think that needs to go to finance still?
I mean, it should.
I mean, everybody's here though.
Well, it should. I mean,
Usually,
you asked my opinion. You don't have to take it.
usually how it works is I would take my request to the city manager and police and fire. In 20 years I've been here, I've never went to finance.
Well,
But, I mean, you guys can
But
do whatever.
everybody else always left finance.
You guys can do it however you want. I mean, that's why we have our committees. It's up to you guys. These are the numbers.
what's your timeline on that?
Just as soon as possible. I mean, it's already
We'll
going
have
to
to
be,
do it at the next meeting, and
Right.
we can just, suspend.
however you guys want to do it.
We should be able to have a meeting before then, and finance will just determine which fund to pull it from, that's all.
It's all, because, it's all capital improvement, so it'll all fall into that category.
Okay, ship it over to finance. And let them.
I forgot to mention one thing. I did some figures today and it's gonna cost me $225,000 to do my houses. That's deconstructing them, that's holloway. I'm serious. We did about a $5,000 per building estimate. So I just wanted the citizens to be aware and you guys to be aware that it's pretty costly. It's a costly project. And that may be why.
Didn't all have to be done at once.
Right. It's a rough estimate. Not that I'm asking for money. It's a rough estimate per building on about how much we're looking at.
I think there's ways to get around some of that. I think that's why I was never a big advocate of the city taking responsibility for them and pulling them down in the past when we discussed it. The property owner should take responsibility. I know in some cases we don't have that, but that's why I think I'm a big proponent for the land bank, because they have the ability to do things that we don't, and have means of getting funding that we cannot. So So I think there'll be creative solutions to some of these and, potentially collaborating with, other institutions like Hocking College or with, Tri-County. I think there's some things that we can do once we get through this process.
Mm-hmm. That was a very low estimate too, unfortunately.
I would imagine because some of them I'm sure have asbestos siding, which the remediation of that is very expensive. So.
Yeah, and I know we've looked at different areas as far as training and burning goes too. We might be able to do some of that through the fire department as well. There's still asbestos testing and stuff that we have to do. There's hoops we have to jump through with the EPA, but it might be advantageous on a few of them to do that. That's what we're going to be doing on Elm Rock with some of those buildings there.
Do you have any, have you looked at like any grants or anything that help with that for your process?
There's not very many grants out there for that type of work. Probably because it's so expensive. Some houses, some departments, I've seen 60 samples taken from one home just for asbestos testing. There's a lot of stuff you have to do now with the Clean Air Act and
Lead paint, asbestos.
so we can, but even if we, like on Elm Rock, we'll be training some more in those structures there. And we will end up burning some of those structures, which will make it easier for someone to come in later on also for that, before the plant started to clean it up. There'll be less there to work with. I'm open to doing that in some areas in the town also, but what I need to do is I need to make sure that we can do it safely and we don't damage anything else doing it. So a lot of the structures that I've looked at, we couldn't do safely. So
Right.
that's why we haven't done it.
Yeah.
To add to that, does anybody have any objections to, because of course I'd want Chris and PD to have an opportunity as well to train at any of those facilities. But I've only talked to Mr. Fisk once, but Vic rather, and I don't know if it'd be, does anybody have any objections to offering it up to the sheriff's department or any other agencies to train on if they want to? I don't know if they would take it, but at least offer it to them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't slow down any process that we would have, I mean, because the ones sitting out there for a sewer plant, be sitting there for quite some time.
Yeah.
You know.
I agree.
I do want to mention that on these vacant buildings, we do pour a lot of our resources into those buildings that we don't see, such as police and fire services. We've got a couple buildings that have caught fire. So it did cost the city some money there. The amount of crime that takes place in some of these buildings creates, overtime for police going in, So those services that you can't see, those buildings are costing the city. I read an article that a vacant building that's been vacant for 10 years can cost a city up to $20,000. We're losing money, we're losing taxes, we're losing a lot of money. I just wanted to say that. I realize that we don't have $225,000 right now, but I would encourage all of council to think about creating a budget line item for me in the future, so that we can get some of these properties taken care of. And I've been working really hard to make sure the buildings that are existing now don't become that way, just like the one on Columbus Street up from, or Washington Street up from the hardware store.
I just had a, a comment pop in, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with this, but, possibly donating any of them to Habitat for Humanity for them to refurbish. I don't know if that's an option or not.
You have to go through the land bank first because the difficulties in the taxes and property owners, and the land bank just has more tools in their bag to free up a lot of it.
And the land bank does work with Habitat. Habitat does get some of the property once it's through there, but unfortunately, I don't think Habitat has access to any monies to be able to, do some of those things like the remediation of the of the asbestos, plus, like Dan said, the taxes and stuff, we can't forgive that.
Yeah, to remove some of the asbestos, I was told by Mr. Wasserman, it was a few $1,000s.
Oh, yeah, they was expensive.
One of the houses that they currently own, which made them kind of halt somewhat in the process. They have to go through certain regulations, just like we do,
Sure.
that a normal individual that would buy it off the land bank doesn't necessarily have to go through, I do believe. So there'll be a lot of land bank properties that'll be out there for grabs soon that they no longer have funding for to demo the building. So, you know, an individual can buy a property and do the demo from the land bank as well. And I have a meeting Friday at 10 o'clock with Rick, and we're going to go over about 6 properties that could be potential land bank properties. So.
Great.
All right. Anything else?
Ms. Johnson, you want to add anything?
All right.
Nothing on the agenda unless you needed me to address something.
No? Okay.
All right.
I think everybody's good? Any other discussion? Nope. Okay, we'll call this meeting to end at 8:22.
Chris, can I get that lady's phone number? Do you have that?
I do not.